Hello my friends, it's Gabriel with The Last Huntsman Outdoors here. I have a new knife. This is actually my twin brother's knife that he bought and sent to me to review before I send it back to him. And that is from Bear Forest Knives, his newest model, the Yukon. This is brand new, right out of the box. I haven't done anything to it. So let's test this knife out. All right, here is the Yukon. As you can see, it has kind of a, it's not a sharpened swedge, but it is a bit of a swedge. It's 52-100 steel, high saber grind. It's about 3/16 thick. Comes with a Kydex sheath. Of course, out of the box, he had it come with this little clip here. I'm not exactly sure what was the intended method of carry. It's about 5-inch blade. So, kind of size comparison, I don't have anything with me that's close in size, but I'd say it's right around the like Work Tough Gear Red Wolf size. So kind of that like 5-inch camp knife size range. And that's kind of the intention. This one is the black micarta version. Let's get using it. At the Yukon here, I'm gonna do some batoning. This is 5-inch blade or so, so it's not gonna be some like heavy batoner, but will do what you need it to. Actually, for its size range, it batons pretty good. And the swedge doesn't really seem to bother it too much. Right through that knot right there. See if I got another little piece here I can go through real quick. Does pretty good. Just getting some feather sticks here. The Bear Forest Knives, Yukon. Pretty decent feather sticks with this knife. And like I said, it's 3/16 thick. What do you guys think? As usual, I'm gonna do some slicing with it and kind of just do a few different grips here and just kind of see how it feels in hand. Right now I'm starting off with just a straight up hammer type of grip. Out of the box, it came pretty decently sharp. Taking out some decent chunks. This probably would be a bit slicier knife if it was thinner, if it was like more like 5/32 or even like 1/8 of an inch. But it being 3/16 thick, it's going to be a very hardy knife, and it's also going to lend it to being able to do some chopping too. Feels pretty good with a hammer grip. Let's try to do more of like a handshake type of grip here. I actually think it feels a little better with a handshake grip. But yeah, the ergonomics pretty decent. It has some decent swells and such with it. It's kind of a slightly weird shaped handle, but yet it works pretty good. I'm going to try just a little bit of chopping here with it. Now this is a 5-inch blade. I don't really count this as like a chopping knife per se. It's just kind of a little short for that. However, it can do some like delimbing type of stuff. Do some notches here with the Bear Forest knives Yukon. A square notch. On a very uneven log here, so it's a little awkward. Now let's see if we can do a full just cross grain baton here. All right, so another thing to discuss with the Bear Forest knives Yukon is the sheath itself. Now, the fit is actually really good. There's no rattle whatsoever. It's locked in pretty good. Has a good little thumb ramp on there too. Deploys pretty good. He does have a decent amount of holes here, so you can kind of mount whatever you want on there. Out of the box, at least the way I got it, he had this little clip on here. This is kind of more of like an EDC type of clip. For this size of knife, I think I would rather have had like kind of like a leather drop and maybe even like a tech lock type of system, kind of like I do. But this would work until you do something. And I guess theoretically you could EDC this knife if you wanted to. It's a little on the big side for me, but I don't know, if you were going into a shady neighborhood and you wanted a good shank stick, this would definitely be it. Now, I would say one thing I think that could possibly be improved, and I do think his Kydex has come a long way, but if it was just a little bit slimmer along the side, if it was a little bit more closer to the blade and such and not quite as bulky, especially like kind of right through here. But that being said, it's still a very functional and very decent Kydex sheath. All right, another thing to consider with the Yukon. Now, my twin brother, he bought this knife. He sent it to me. And one of the things that kind of really caught his attention was he was like, man, that would be like a decent like kit knife, or like something you'd throw in with your LBE or battle belt, and it'd be like a good little soldier knife. I actually agree. It is that like good soldier knife size. I personally prefer something a little bigger, but this is still well within range. So we're just going to see if it would make like a decent little combat knife. Now, I will say right off the bat, the handles are a little smooth. I think he kind of intended this more for like bushcraft. So I'm going to try a fencing grip and see how it feels. Feels a lot better with fencing grip. Let's just try some stabs. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Stabs really good actually. With that swedge. Now, I've always been mixed opinions on a swedge on a knife. However, I actually feel like he did a really good job with the swedge on this, because it still helps with the stabbing, but it doesn't make the tip so thin that it's like gonna break off either. I think some knife companies do a really good job with the swedge and some doesn't. I think this is like the perfect swedge. I actually like the swedge quite a bit. But yeah, overall, I think it would make a decent little tactical field knife. If I was gonna change anything with it on that front though, I'd probably add some more aggressive texturing to the handle scales themselves. But other than that, it's an awesome blade. All right, another thing to consider with the Yukon is this is just a great field utility knife. Now, one of the things that I will have to point out, Bear Forest Knives has gotten absolutely amazing with his sharp spines. And so I'm not gonna worry about building a fire right now. It's mid 50s, so I'm not really feeling cook me out of my shelter right now, but does strike a ferro rod amazingly well. I'm very impressed with Bear Forest Knives and his sharp spines these days. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up my review of the Bear Forest Knives Yukon. Overall, I'm going to straight up say I like this knife. This knife feels great in hand. It would be a great little just bushcraft out in the woods field knife, and I would also argue that it would make a decent little soldier blade. So if you're kind of on the fence on the Yukon, I would just grab one. And Bear Forest Knives, his fit and finish and just his heat treatment and everything is just really on point. I really like Bear Forest Knives. Now, one little thing that I might change, and this is just a me personal thing, a lot of people really like these smooth scales, and some people really like it, especially for like bushcrafty type of stuff. Me personally, I would like just a little bit more texture on these. If they had some kind of like grooves on here, or stippling kind of texture, or even like checkering or something along those lines, that to me would just kind of feel a little better in hand. But that's also just a me thing. That would probably be the only thing that I would change, but all that being said, you could easily do that with a Dremel if you know what you're doing. So I'm gonna wrap up this review, get this sent back to my twin brother. With all that being said, be prepared both physically and spiritually. God bless. Carry on.